Hi, welcome to the small shed, and I'm not dead. See you in a minute. Now I thought I ought to put out an update video. I don't usually like doing catch-ups and things because it seems to be a bit of a waste of time if you're not actually making anything. But I'd had one or two messages on Instagram and Facebook and on the channel itself with folks wondering where I was, because it's been 3 months since I put a video out. The very short version is that there's nothing wrong with me. Well, nothing more than usual. I'm fine physically, mentally, same with the qualification of no worse than usual. But I've just been very busy, and life and lots of other stuff seems to have got in the way. So as I say, thank you for all the notes of concern that have, come to me. But I'm fine, not any great problem. The longer version I'll go into because there's lots and lots of reasons, and they all seem to have coincided in one great big vicious circle of things that I've had to do that aren't any real interest on the channel. Holidays, family, and stuff that's just frankly not that interesting. So I'll just run through a few things. So in order to look at, I've started this video on about 4 occasions over the last few weeks, and it never seems to be a coherent thing. It seems to go off rambling in all directions because there's been so much chaos, if you like, in my life. But if I go back, I think it sort of works on a timeline. Going back to October last year, when my leg was somewhat not very nice, and I was in hospital for a week or so. And I think that's where the roots of all the problems or happenings, if you like, have started. Not only did it take me out of action for probably a month, not doing anything, it also took me through, obviously Christmas then got in the way, and I was still not fully active. I was doing most of anything I did sitting down. And I started messing around with some medication I've got for blood pressure. It's nothing, it was a change of pills, but it seemed to involve me in a constant, steady stream of visits to the health centre for a month or so. Getting blood tests, getting blood pressure tests, going and seeing the doctor with the leg to see how it was getting on, and all that sort of thing. And that sort of disrupted everything as well, so that I couldn't really get settled into doing anything. And of course that then took us into spring. Now, as I've mentioned before, although my wife and I are both active, she is less able to do the things in the garden that she used to do. And I've always in the past just done the heavy lifting, if you like, the digging, putting paths in and putting sheds and greenhouses up. She's done all the nice bits. But increasingly there's things like pruning and chopping bushes and trees down and things that she can't do so well, with snippers and loppers and things like that, and the digging. And so I've got gradually more and more sucked into doing stuff in the garden, and of course spring is perhaps the busiest time of the year, and so that took up pretty much most of the February, March, April sort of time anyway. Now, none of that was really anything that you could take video of, because apart from the one video I took when I fell off the ladder. There's not much of any great amusement or interest in doing gardening for a channel that makes things. I did mention in one of the previous videos that I wanted to redo the fence down one side of the garden, and to that end I did start making videos. I started doing some trial holes to find out where I was going with depths, and the existing posts were going to have to be altered, and I spent some time doing a couple of videos on preparation and planning for the fence. And then as I got more and more into it, I started to realise one of the things that has probably mentally come out of the my leg situation, that I'm no longer as young as I used to be, and I'm certainly not as invulnerable as I think I am. And you start to realise that when I used to do the extension on the house, I'd pick a 50-kilogram bag of cement up and put on my shoulders. I struggle now to pick a 20-kilogram bag up. And I was looking into the materials for the fence. I'd already decided it was going to take me 7 or 8 weeks to do it because of the time I'd got available, the way I would have to do it with one man. To put effectively a post in, put a fence panel and the gravel board in, get all that lined up, and then put the next post in. And it was something that was going to take me probably a week a panel, knowing me, given the time, as I say, I'd got available to do it, and how well I was likely to be able to lift things up. But then I got into a delivery to be organised for the fence posts, and I started to check out and found that they were 55 kilograms a piece. And the prospect of having to get those off the drive, up the side of the house, round the corner, across the garden, and drop them into a hole on my own, started to make me realise that perhaps it would be more sensible to get somebody else to do it. Goes against the grain, but you have to accept certain things, as I say, as you get older. And we got a quote from a guy who was recommended, been used by a friend of ours, and he seemed to know what he was talking about, and it was less than I thought it would be. And sure enough, he came along, got all the materials, and he did it in 2 days, which kind of humbled me a bit. And he's done a good job, happy with it, but of course that meant that not only was there nothing for me to video, it meant that all the previous stuff I'd done was a total waste of time, and that's just gone into the recycle bin on the computer. And the spin-off from that is that there was inevitably quite a bit of collateral damage around the pond and to the garden itself, and a bit of reinstatement needed in beds and things like that. So there was more work there that again is of no great interest to a channel dedicated to making things and primarily aimed towards woodworking, I suppose. Now in March it had been our golden wedding anniversary, and we were planning to go up to the north or east of England for a break. We wanted a week or so's holiday, and the weather was just frankly a bit like it is today, miserable and lousy, and there was no prospect of any decent weather. And this went on for a week or two when we were planning things, and in the end, 2 days before we were due to go, we said, you know what, it's not worth it. So we cleared off down to Oxford for a couple of days or long weekend, and had some celebration down there, but decided we would come back to this idea of a holiday up north when the weather improved. And this year it just hasn't. So in June, after we got most of the garden sorted, we thought, let's go off and find some sun somewhere. So we cleared off to Cyprus for a holiday, and got our sun, but again, nothing going on, no work, no videos, not making anything, and so again it's just pushed the making of anything further and further into the year. Now in July I did actually manage to get into the shed and do a little bit of stuff, and I've got videos that have started some of the things that I was working on. There was a TV unit that I was working on and the coffee table for the library in Bromsgrove. The TV unit is actually finished now. That was a nightmare. It changed from being a very simple thing that was thrown together for a mate at the Benin Sheds to something that kept getting changed. It was a classic sort of government project where halfway through the specifications change, and it just became a bit of an anchor for a while. That is now done, but for reasons I'll mention in a minute or two, I just haven't had a chance to edit the video, the last bit of that. And the coffee table for the library is a lot further on than it was, and I've taken a lot of video on that, but again I was hung up waiting for details of what they wanted, lasering, engraving into the top of it, things like that. So that's still ongoing, but it's fairly slow. Now we are then getting towards August when a couple of things have happened. It's holiday season, and we have in the past historically gone away with my daughter and son-in-law and the grandchildren, and last year with my son as well. Now this year, because they'd moved house, they were going to have some building work done that was going to go on, so we said we'd have the grandchildren. So a week of the month has been taken up with having the grandchildren, which means you've got another week to recover after. It's a delight to have them, but it's full on and quite tiring. I've also been down for a day or two helping out, measuring stuff for steel work and things like that. So that's been holding me up from doing anything practically in the shed. And there's a spin-off from that as well, in that I have the grandchildren down, take them out to places where they buy stuff like Scalex cars second hand and Monroe engines second hand, which then don't work as well as they should, and so I've then got another week's work getting replacement parts and repairing cars and things like that, which I've been doing as well. And again, it's probably not desperately interesting to see me taking the lid off a Scalex car and putting in a new motor that just clips in, but it takes time, and sourcing wheels and tyres and things like that. So that's been a bit of a block as well. So here we are in September, and we've decided that if we're going to get in this holiday up to the Northumberland coast, we'd better do it. We were hoping that there might be a bit of an Indian summer at the beginning of September, so we took a chance on that, and it doesn't look like it's happening. But I think it's the best prospect we've got this year. So unless we give up altogether and don't bother, I think we're going to go regardless. So that's going to take out the next couple of weeks, because we'll be touring around, and again I might get a bit of footage of things that are interesting for the Saturday videos, but again I'm not making anything. So that's where I am at the moment, and as you can see, that therefore means there's little or no prospect of anything new for at least a couple of weeks, because I won't be here, and it's going to take, as you'll see in a minute, a week or two to sort out the mess that has become the shed, the garage and the workroom because of all the other stuff that's been going on. It's just become dumping grounds everywhere. So apologies if we're not getting any content. It will be back. It's not because I'm not interested or I've gone off doing something else. It's just because what I am doing is just not particularly relevant to the channel, but it's stuff that has to be done. There is one sidetrack caveat to all that, in that I have tended to do more model railway stuff. When my leg was bad and I was sitting down, it seemed to be a more logical thing for me to do in the workroom in the house. So I built a little layout in the bedroom, which has been taking some time up. And with the increasing interest in Gauge 1 that I mentioned, because we've got the outdoor layout at the Railway Club, I have to say the 3D printer came in there and has been working non-stop since last October. That in turn tended to clog up the shed a little bit and constrict things, and I've been doing a bit more model railway stuff. So it's not quite true to say I've got nothing that's diverting me from what I used to do. That has been a slight bias that's distracted me a bit. But I will be back. I've got loads of stuff to do that I want to do. I'm going to have a walk around with you the various rooms in the house that I work in, so you can see what sort of chaos we're in. But I hope from that you'll also see that there's a lot of stuff in prospect of things I want to do that I've been getting stuff ready for. There's wood been cut to size and planed up and all that sort of thing. So hopefully once we get this little hiatus out of the way, winter comes along, it's much more easy to settle into the shed and hunker down and get some work done. So in the internal railway room you can see we've got problems because I'm building stock, and that's effectively stopped any work going on the 009 layout, and it's just cluttered the workbench up beyond all belief. So I need to get all these things squared away into boxes, and if necessary put away into the roof until I'm ready to deal with them one at a time. A lot of this is 3D printed stuff, and hopefully we've stopped that for the moment so we can get to build these, all the wagons that are in here. There's wagons up in the boxes in there, there's wagons down below in containers, all to be built, and that one is the first one that's nearly ready to come off the production line. The brake vans are getting close now, but there's just chaos in here because of all of that. In the garage, the poor old cycle cart has got buried again with stuff. That needs a day to tidy up, get the stuff out that shouldn't be in here, so I can get access to it and make a start on that. Putting it back together, we've got the main engine frame reassembled. It just needs bolting into the cart now and get this tail made. But again, it's just been left, partly because I didn't need to, because I wasn't going to get any running in this year, but partly also because of all the other stuff that's gone on that's just overwhelmed and pushed it onto the back burner.
And then we have the greatest travesty of all, which is the shed, which, as you can see, is just totally unusable at the moment for a couple of reasons. Firstly, as you can see, the railway bug has created a certain amount of surplus material that's lying in the all over the place, and we need to get that squared away. To do that, I really need to get some sort of containers, boxes made. That's what all that timber is for. It's all been cut to size down at Menin Sheds while I can, because there's a real possibility at the moment that I won't be able to in the next couple of months, possibly for the short term, possibly for a longer term. So I've got that done. There's enough there for 4 trays, which will store, each tray will store 9 wagons or 3 coaches. So I've got, or any mix of the two. So I've got 4 trays there, and 1 box which will hold 2 trays. So I've got to cut another set of material like that to make a box to hold the trays. I've also got some very nice timber. I don't know what it is. I thought it was red oak, but I'm not so sure now. It's quite an oily wood. But I want to cut that down to make some locomotive boxes for the big engines, which there's one there which is half built and one there which is 3/4 built. And they need to go into some sort of carrier. So when I come back off holiday, this is going to have to be one of the first things to start with, and literally move everything out, probably put it in the conservatory, now it's dry, and start and work my way through here, tidying it back up, sweeping it out, getting it clean, getting it usable, and probably again I want to get the 3D printer out of here, because that's been slowing things down, because I can't work when that's running, because I don't want to fill it with sawdust and so on. So hopefully I can move that into the conservatory, and again there's material here to make a table for it to go in there, and there's still the stuff for the coffee table which needs the laser engraving doing, so that's probably the priority when I get back, to get that finished and into the library. And that'll be the last of the jobs I've got for Menin Sheds to get done. There's some timber over there that's for, I think it was a base for this ender in oak, but again that's been there for 2 or 3 months now, and I'm getting further and further away from it as I get closer to the door with stuff. So we need a big sort out in here. This is one of the primary reasons we haven't had any videos. I can't get in there at the moment.
And then finally, as it's not an excuse, it's a reason for not doing so much, Menin Sheds has been a little bit more of a time drag to me than it has in the past, for a couple of reasons. Pretty much all good. I supervise on a Monday, and we've had a guy down for the last few months now who has severe dementia, very severe. He can't remember when he put his cup of tea 2 minutes ago. But the guy is a joy to work with. We've all taken him to our hearts, but he needs almost one-to-one supervision. You can't really turn your back on him, because you don't know what he might do. He's been good as gold. Generally, if we give him something to sand, he's off singing and happy as Larry. But what that means, of course, is that I can't get stuff done down at Menin Sheds that I used to for projects. I used to go down there and get a lot of cutting of timber done and planing done while I was supervising, because you can still keep your eye on what's going on. And that enabled me to get a lot of project stuff done while I was working, if you like, on a Monday. So that's taken a bit of time away. And then the other problem we have is that we've been told our lease expires in December on the unit, And the guy that owns the unit, it was his pension fund, and he's decided he wants to cash it in. So the unit is going to go up for sale in December, which means we are going to be potentially homeless. And I, along with most of the other guys, have had the last couple of months virtually driving around every industrial estate in the area, searching out, chatting to every person we know who might know a man who knows a man who's got a barn or whatever, to try and find some new premises. And so that's been a bit of a drain on time as well. The last week things have become a bit more positive when we found out that the guy with the business next door to us has ceased trading, so that unit is now empty. So it maybe we'll only have to move next door, but it is a bit of a worry at the moment that we've got the potential of nowhere to go in December, and what the hell do you do with 8 workbenches, bandsaws, chop saws, all the timber we've got? It's got to be moved somewhere and we don't know where, so we're sort of trying to plan that out as well. So that is also a distraction that is now and potentially going to happen through to the end of the year. One of the other things that's been hit is the cycle cart. I made a conscious decision fairly early on in the year, because of all the problems with legs and things, that there was no point. I wasn't going to get much running in this year at any of the events that they organised, so I pushed that back until the winter, if you like. So it does mean that there's been no progress on the cycle cart either, but again, I have started to tidy up once or twice in the garage with a view to getting that on the move again. So hopefully there will be some movement on that scene, but it's just been affected like everything else, with life getting in the way. So there we are. Apologies, not much prospect of getting anything much happening for a month or so. The intent is still there, the desire is still there, and hopefully life getting in the way will get out of the way and we can get on and get some videos made. But it's not going to be a quick process, I'm afraid. As you can see, there's an awful lot of clearing up to do before I even start. But there are plenty of projects in the pipeline, lots of projects in my head, and there are probably, I think there's about 10 or 15 videos in production, if you like, things that I've started that I've been nibbling in and out of. And the problem is with those that they need editing, and they need more editing than usual. If I go out there to do a video, sometimes you can go into the shed, film everything pretty much in sequence as you're doing it, throw it all together into the video editor, chop the bits out you don't want, and you end up with a video. What is happening with these other projects that are sort of started was they were started in October, November, December, January. They've been come back to 2 months later. You've forgotten what you said in the first one, you've forgotten what you did in the first one. There's a lot of repetition, it's scrappy, and you forget, you realise you haven't quite finished something. So there's a bit of work to do on those, but hopefully I can start and feed a few videos in of things that I've been doing that are not now completed, but I just haven't had a chance to edit yet, because again, I've not had the editing time to do them. And apologies for those in that they may be a bit more scrappy than usual because of this business of them being shot over effectively a 6-month period. So enough of the waffling and apologies. We are where we are. This is where the channel is at the moment. It will be back. We'll be back with more videos, and as I say, I'm not dead, I'm not disinterested. just incredibly busy. So many thanks again to all those who've shown any concern. It isn't warranted. I'm fine. We will be back shortly, and hopefully there to entertain. See you later. Bye.